Hello, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at the concept of personality. What is it? How is it developed? And why is knowing about it really, really important in our relationship with other humans and our management and leadership roles? So let's dive in. The very first thing we need to look at to be able to make sure that we are understanding personality is the definition. So while there's not one formally agreed upon definition, the majority of them do contain the following components. It's defined as characteristic sets of behaviors, cognitions, and emotional patterns that evolve from biological and environmental factors. Okay. It's generally agreed that most theories focus on motivation and psychological interactions with one's environment. So that's a lot of big words and a lot of big concepts. So let's just break it down a little bit. That first definition I gave you, it said it involves sets of behaviors, cognitions, and emotional patterns. If we break down these words to their main understanding, behaviors are the things that we do, cognitions are the things that we think, and emotional patterns are the things that we feel. So our personality, by definition, is all of the things that we do, think, and feel. Okay. And that evolves from biological and environmental factors. Okay. Biological is referring to your genetics and the way you were born, and environmental factors has to do with the world that you've interacted with as you have grown and developed into the human that you are today. So that could include race, culture, religion, schooling, family, friends, travel. Anybody that you interact with would be considered as a part of those environmental factors. So really, by definition, our personality is all of the things that we do, think, and feel, and they have evolved from both some biological way we were born as well as the world around us. So really, personality is a huge part of who we are. It pretty much is who we are, right? The things that we do, think, and feel. And so being able to understand our own personality, as well as the personality of the people that we are interacting with, whether these are just friends or significant others or family in your life, can help you understand and predict the types of reactions and things that they're going to do. But from a business perspective, it can be really, really, really important. Okay. A lot of the top teams in the world, especially sports teams, have started using personality understandings to help them work better together. And so why wouldn't business teams do the same thing? Okay. The other thing I wanted to point out is that this focus on motivation and psychological interactions. Okay. So not only is it what we think, feel, and do, but it also influences how we interact with others, how we relate to others, and what motivates us. Okay, so hugely beneficial to understand about ourselves and to understand about others that are around us. Okay, that understanding of both our own self and the others around us has a scientific term called social cognition, which is more commonly referred to as emotional intelligence. There has been a huge development and phase in the emotional intelligence sphere, especially in the education world. And so you may have heard that word, but it's formally called social cognition. And what that is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, as well as interpersonal relationships. Okay, and so again, if personality determines what we do, think, and feel, okay, social cognition is our capacity to be aware of, understand why we think and feel and do the things that we do, as well as possibly control some of those things. Okay, and to be expressing them in a way. So really, what we are doing today, what you are doing today by learning about personality, considering other people's personalities and how you're going to interact with them, this learning is a development of your social cognition. Okay. I always take things back to childhood, okay? When children and babies are first born, they do not have an understanding of self, okay? A lot of scientific studies have shown us that babies believe that their main caregiver, often their mother, is literally attached to them, like they are the same as them, okay? And then as they grow, they start to understand that difference, that concept of peekaboo. People can go away and come back. And this just continues to develop. So generally, roughly 3-year-olds start to understand that different people may want or like different things than them. Okay. I have a 2.5-year-old at home that right now, if somebody at my table, like my older child, says, I don't like this, she will be like, I don't like this. She believes that what other people think has to be the same as her. Okay. But it's around that 3-year mark that, and again, I don't love putting ages on it because every child develops at a different rate, but that they start to understand that things might be slightly different. We start talking about favorites. My favorite color is blue. Your favorite color is red. That is that basic understanding, and that is that beginning of that social cognition development. Understanding that my preferences, the things that I feel, are different than the things that other people feel, which is really a sense of personality. Okay. It's a little bit later, 4 or 5, that children know that people may think different things. Okay, so not just want or feel, but actually think different things. They're not thinking the same thing all the time. As a parent, this is a great age because children will often start talking like what we would consider in the middle of a sentence because they assume that you're thinking the exact same as them. Okay, so again, they're starting to understand that what they do, what they think, what they feel is different than other people. Okay. It's interesting because as parents and as educators, we get a lot of training on this for the younger ages, but there just seems to be a bit of a lack of this continued learning of this as we get older and as our minds continue to develop. And so when I say, when are we going to learn about the full impact of the ways that others' personalities influence how and what they think and do? Well, we're going to do that today. That's why we're here. All right, so let's get into it. There's a few different ways for us to understand personality, all right? A number of different scientists have come up with what they call to be models of personality or personality indicators, okay? Today, we are going to focus on the most basic but most commonly accepted personality indicator, which is the concept of being an introvert or an extrovert, okay? In future videos, we will look at some of the other indicators in the studies that have been done that get a little bit more complicated, but we're going to start it here. Our goal for understanding introverts and extroverts is to, again, continue to just acknowledge that my personality affects what I think, feel, and do, and that somebody else may process the world differently than I do. And therefore, when faced with the exact same thing, they may have a different reaction based off of that personality, which often it's not a control thing. This isn't, you've been taught you should know better. These are our natural instincts and what we believe of the world. All right. So oftentimes people have heard of the concept of an introvert or extrovert, but it's generally used, what we call layman's term, by everyday people, as an introvert is believed to be shy, whereas an extrovert is believed to be outgoing. I remember all of my life when I was younger, whatnot, I was a very chatty child. Okay. And I had a lot of energy. And so everybody said, oh, she's such an extrovert. She's such an extrovert. Okay. That's not necessarily true. Okay, so let's dive into it. What we are looking at to understand if somebody is an introvert or an extrovert is their desire for stimulation and where they recharge. Okay, so stimulation can include any of your senses. So stimulation includes noises, lots of them around you. It includes visuals, different things like that. It includes smells. It includes taste. Okay. And the more things that are going on is the more stimulation that you have around you. All right. So if you are someone that prefers to sit in a quiet place, quiet has to do with that noise stimulation that's going on. Okay. So there's some people that, I don't want quiet. I want, when I'm doing my work, I need to have music going on. I'd rather be at a coffee shop. I want, movement around me. I want action around me, different things like that. That is a desire for stimulation. It's acknowledged that everybody has phases of that. Nobody is like wanting to be all around one all of the time. And just because you maybe don't desire strong stimulation doesn't mean you can't handle it. Right? Somebody that has a desire for low stimulation, that is when they're trying to focus, when they're trying to do something. That doesn't mean they won't be willing to go to a concert or a party that has high stimulation for short periods of time. All right. So there is those complexities in it. But when we're looking at your basic main desire, if you are on your own, Okay, you have some downtime. Are you craving low stimulation areas? Okay, quiet, maybe less light, no little or no music going on, or are you craving high stimulation areas? Okay, and that is a good starting point. Okay, from there, we also then look at where we recharge because, again, a lot of people get caught up in this, like, but I like a good party and I like a good concert. But where do we recharge? And recharging is at the end of a day that you consider to be draining, whatever that was involved. What do you need to do to want to go out and interact with the world again? We know we need sleep. We're not necessarily talking about sleep, but how do you recharge? And I actually like to look at this in the reverse. Okay. So I would say when you go to a high stimulation area, when you go to a party, when you go out with friends, when you go out and do something that's highly social and highly stimulated, at the end, are you happy you went, but now tired and need to recharge? Or are you invigorated because you were able to recharge with that stimulation? Okay. And that's going to be your big deciding factor. So while I was a very outgoing child and while I loved to talk, okay, at the end of those moments and the end of those times, I needed to recharge. I was tired. Okay. And that indicates that I'm actually an introvert. Okay, so it doesn't have to do with shyness and it doesn't have to do with my ability to get up and do a presentation. Okay, and it doesn't have to do with my ability to go to a party and have a good time or a social gathering. It's that recharge component. Okay, and this can be something that when you identify in yourself where you're at, okay, can be a really eye-opening moment for you as well to realize that other people might feel differently. Okay. Again, I would have friends that wanted, after a big day or a big event, to then do more things the following morning. And I never understood that. Maybe like, maybe I'm not fit enough. Maybe I'm not this or that enough. How do they have so much energy? It's not about energy. It's about the fact that during that very high sensory stimulating event that we went to, they were recharging. Their batteries are full and ready to go for more. And if anything, they're craving more of that. Whereas for me, I loved it. I enjoyed it to the fullest, but I'm now depleted. And so I now need to do my default, which is low sensory, to recharge my battery to then want to go and do that again. All right. So if you've been able to, through my explanation, identify where you are at, that is number one. Awesome. Social cognition, emotional intelligence. You are now understanding a lot of the things that you think, feel, and do around social and stimulating settings. All right. Personally, again, with stimulation, I get overwhelmed at places where there's a lot of people talking. All right. So I might put on headphones with some instrumental music to reduce that stimulation in myself. Okay. That's an instinct in me. Okay. I have students who in a quiet classroom need to put on music because they need to activate that stimulation for themselves for them to be able to work well. Okay. And so hopefully this is helping you to kind of identify why you do the things that you do, as well as looking at the people around you in your life that maybe you've not always understood or agreed with and why they do the things that they do. All right. I'm not going to play this video for copyright reasons. I will link it below so you can check it out. This is a video of Oprah and Amy Schumer, who are two very famous women who do a lot of what we would consider social thing. Oprah Winfrey had a television show forever. She interviews people. She goes out. She challenges people. Amy Schumer is a comedian, would be on stage every night, actress, all of these things. And in this conversation, they're talking about the fact that they're both actually introverts. Okay. And especially in jobs like theirs and in a society like theirs, what that looks like and how that can be difficult and how they manage it. Okay. So definitely worth a watch and worth a listen. All right. Now, you may have noticed from my explanations in a lot of this, it always kind of reverts back to being compared against extroverts. And unfortunately, that is the way that our society has been built. Okay, when I say our society, I am referencing Canada, pretty similar to the United States. It might be different in different parts of the world, but the society that we have been built for extroverts. Okay, when we think about children, okay, summer camps are built for extroverts. Go, 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 activity, activity, activity. Sports teams are built for extroverts. Okay, high sensory music between plays. This idea that our life has to be very, very full that social media has brought to us. This has to do with extroversion. And again, for the people that recharge their battery by high stimulation areas, this is perfect. Yes, they want to be out and about with their kids. They want to be at a park. They want to be at a sports game. They want to be doing all of things. These work. Okay. The reality, though, is that our whole population is not extroverts. And so for the introverts of the world, especially growing up, maybe they're in a family of extroverts, this can be really difficult because at the end of the day, they are now tired and need that chance to recharge, whereas everybody else has been charging all day and they're ready to continue going. Okay. Think of your school settings. Okay, there's been a huge push in education for the not silent classroom anymore. Okay, a recognition that extroverts don't work well. Okay, we brought in, at least I did, like exercise bikes and standing desks and lots of group work and talking and put on music and a louder work setting. And again, that's great for our extroverts. That's great for our neurodivergence. That's great for a lot of our population that was being left behind before. But there's that recognition that it's not great for everybody. So when we make those switches and those changes, are we also making accommodations on the other side? And then the same in the workforce, okay? Again, we went from everybody having their own office or cubicle in a silent workplace to saying, oh, it's so much better if we're open concept. We don't have closed offices. We don't have designated offices even. We can be around each other. We can collaborate. And again, great for an extrovert, okay? But, and again, introverts can still thrive at work. It just means that they go home drained and they need to be able to recharge, okay? So, and then creativity. Who do you think? Who do you think is more creative, introverts or extroverts? So what does this matter? We've spent a bunch of time with you listening to me talk about this. Okay. We live in a world where we don't want to put labels on people. So why are we putting labels on people? Well, understanding through a lens like this, and again, no lens is perfect. Okay. But through a lens like this of trying to put a label on somebody as an introvert or an extrovert, it can help us again understand what they think, feel, and do, what their default is going to be, where their comfort is going to be. And especially in relationships, whether it's a personal relationship or a business leadership relationship, understanding the people that you are with, what they are thinking, feeling, and doing, what's going to motivate them is hugely important to the success of that relationship, especially in a business environment. Okay, so if we are creating an environment where for one of our introverted workers, they are ending the day drained from work, okay, they're probably not going to be satisfied at work. When they're not satisfied, they're not motivated to come into work. We might see higher absenteeism for them to be recharging their batteries. We might see them looking for a different job. We might see them needing more benefits like massages or other things like that, which cost our business money. Okay. On the flip side, if we've set up our office or our environment for introverts alone, then we are going to likely see these extroverts who are feeling the same way. They're feeling unsatisfied at work. They're not able to be as productive, and they're not going to have that desire to be there. This is when we see students acting out in school, and again, labeling as them something other than the fact that this is just how their brains are. This is what their personality is, and needing to understand that. Okay. Also, in your personal relationships can be hugely beneficial. Okay. When I first got married, my husband would come home at the end of the day from his very, very high stimulating job at a assembly facility, and he would not talk to me for like an hour. And I was newly married, and I was like, my husband hates me, and I'm going to be getting a divorce. Okay, because he just didn't want to talk to me. Why wouldn't he want to talk to me? Okay, I didn't realize that his work was so high stimulus. Again, his work itself was very repetitive and mundane. So while I know that he is an introvert by nature, I figured he was recharging at work. So him coming home and not wanting to speak to me was offensive to me. It was I'd done something wrong. Whereas if I can understand this about his work, that it's very loud and the lights are bright and there's lots going on, that's high stimulus and he's exhausted and he needs to recharge when he gets home. All right. So that is introversion, extroversion in a nutshell, which is just one of the indicators that we can measure personality on. And we'll see you in the next one.